In offices and businesses all around the world, people are surrounded by supposedly efficient technologies that are intended to do much of our work for us. These tools offer to help us do everything from messages to meetings, even in making decisions. They save us commuting time and shorten the time required for every process. We surf a tsunami of digital efficiency fueled by the perpetual promise that with these tools, we can get more done and improve productivity. So why don't people feel any better? We were supposed to be working fewer hours because of these technologies, yet we feel more drained than ever, and even vacations don't fully recharge people anymore. Why does a normal workday feel like running a marathon in the sand? It's because burnout itself has changed. Welcome to Cool Time Life. I'm Steve Prentice. I'm glad you're here. Each of our Cool Time Life episodes focuses on a topic dealing with people, productivity, technology, and work life, and each offers ideas and facts that you need to know about to thrive in today's busy and sometimes scary world. An index of our podcasts is available at cooltimelife.com. Back in the old days, the pre-internet analog days of the 1970s, people still had lots of work to do. They had deadlines, meetings, and commutes. Some suffered burnout and other mental health issues, and no matter the decade, people always have taken on more work than they could really handle. But the chief differentiator was that of presence and pace. Postal mail, for example, was an analog technology consisting of printed letters placed in envelopes and sent to recipients via the postal service or courier, we all know that. But when it was sent that way, there was a substantial delay between composing a message and receiving a reply. Yes, telephones existed back then, of course, but if you weren't there to answer a call, the best that could be done would be for someone to take a message, write it on a slip of paper, and place it somewhere that the recipient would eventually access it. We all know these two things, of course, but there are two things to take from this story. The first is that the time difference between the sending and the reply allows people's minds to process the information further. Stretches of time between sending and receiving replies may be filled with other activities, but it still allows the sender to mull over the issue, digest it, think on it some more. The second is that all these messages were on paper, essentially. Letters were printed on paper and people read them. Phone messages, too, were left with an answering service to be read later. They were on paper, and this is important, because information presented on paper is processed differently from information that we now process by looking at a screen. This is why, to this day, some people do prefer to print out their emails and read them on paper. It's not great for the environment, maybe, but it's more in line with how our eyes and minds process information. That's also why writing things out by hand, using pen and paper or a dry erase board, is also more productive. It's a connection between the hand and the mind and the eyes. It's not just about being nostalgic for older technologies, there is actually a stronger connection to the thinking parts of the brain that the timing of handwriting and reading off paper allow. So anyway, back to the mail thing, there were gaps in the information flow. Gaps that allowed people's minds to work things through, keep the ideas in context, mull them over. The arrival of email, however, and instant messaging took that processing time away and simultaneously increased the speed of expectation and the pressures that came from it. The new normal was that of an immediate response, another stressor for the recipient of every message. As I said before, tangible media is something we could literally get a hold of. But electronic media is not the same. It presents itself as an unknown, as a bolded, fonted message in your inbox and causes an immediate, small but still significant version of the fight or flight response. Adrenaline kicks in because of an unknown in our environment, and this literally drains our thinking brains of nutrients and oxygen immediately, and it takes many minutes to recover from. When this happens dozens of times a day, it condemns people to remain in a constant state of recovery and sub-level ability all day. This is one of the many reasons why getting work done today is such a challenge. It's not just the email message or even the time and effort required to respond to it. It is also the physiological hangover that follows each of these emails and messages and compounds themselves one atop the other. This instantaneous technology means less buffer time. Less time for decompression. Again, this is largely the fault of mobile phones, or more precisely, our compulsion, our need to check them and be on them constantly. The time that people used to spend decompressing during a walk or during the commute home, or even standing in an elevator just looking at the ceiling, regardless whether the commute was by car or public transit or even on congested roads. This was time for processing. And this has now been replaced by responding to more messages on email or talking on the phone while driving, and no gaps in between. So what's with these gaps? It might come as a surprise for some people to learn that the mental downtime in which you simply leave your mind free to wander while doing other things like walking or commuting or driving, all these things are vital to mental health and also to physical health. It is vital for creativity and problem solving. Activities such as walking or driving without engaging with your phone is not nothing time. It is not wasted time. It is a period of time when you do something of greater value for your mind and therefore for your life. It is positive distraction. It's processing time. It has the same positive benefits to thought and to achievement and to planning and to comprehension and to balance as do sleep and good nutrition, both of which I have talked about in more detail in previous episodes. I'm not denying the fact that it's good to have your phone with you for personal safety reasons and also as a place to record your good ideas when you let your mind wander. But first, you have to let your mind wander. But back to the key topic of this episode, burnout. What makes today's burnout unique and different from that of the last generation? Well, first of all, there is ergonomic inflation. Just like regular inflation in a country's economy, ergonomic inflation is when the number of actions we perform increases with the number of actions needed to complete the task, but without any net benefit or advance. Take, again, email and other forms of messaging. People are forced to respond to an increasing number of these messages, but they seldom assist in reducing any task's burden. In fact, they add to it. It takes more to get the same amount done. Meetings that can be held online through video chat cut down on travel time, certainly, but if the meetings themselves go longer because of this, or worse, more meetings are scheduled simply because the time seems available, this too yields no advancement. You can't get to your main work when you are being meetinged to death. It leads to reduced productivity and increased stress. In sum, it takes more tasks to get work done, and these too must be done in between the answering of messages and attending of meetings. Of course, most of us are already aware of this fact, but we never get a chance to see it from a bird's eye view, just how many of these tasks are involved and just how complicated this is making things. I anticipate we'll see even more of this as organizations rush towards agentic AI tools in the name, once again, of increased productivity, but along the way, a great deal more activity. All of these things lead to the ambient anxiety of uncertainty. Our news is filled with stories of companies laying off or not hiring because apparently AI can do the jobs. We hear about the willingness of organizations to move people or offices around, carrying the threat of enormous upheaval for employees and their families. There is also a constant fear of obsolescence as new technologies and techniques make their mark on the workplace, leading to a sense that I should be doing more. Some of these emotional burdens may be on the large size, like contemplating the number of new skills that you need to develop in order to work with AI. But even small anxiety burdens, such as company policies that insist that cameras must be on during a Teams or Zoom call, as small as that seems, if you prefer to have your camera off, that's a source of stress. That is a contributor to burnout. They all add up. Here's another example. Back-to-back meetings. Something that should be easy to prevent, yet still happens all the time. Back-to-back meetings make for an impossible schedule, one that makes it impossible for people to concentrate and learn. A day of back-to-back meetings becomes one of the heightened stressors. It gives little chance to absorb and process any information presented in these meetings. It also spills over to the following day as you try to catch up with everything you should have done but couldn't because of the meetings. It also contributes as you dread the day coming. This is more stress, more fear, more contributors to burnout. Overloaded days, including back-to-back meetings that were scheduled or assisted by AI or other technologies, becomes the human equivalent of a flood situation during heavy rains, where water races over saturated ground because it has nowhere else to go. This is untenable and it's impractical. So this burnout does feel different from that of previous decades. Burnout, by its very definition, describes a point at which people can no longer function well or at all as a result of an excess of activity or stress or both. We often think of it as occurring after a protracted period of intense work, or for some people when they've simply had enough of a task or even of an employer or a job. It's usually seen as the sad end of a specific period of activity. But modern burnout is different. It's chronic, not acute. People aren't so much hitting a wall as they are just slowly sinking. Because the overload doesn't end. If anything, it's increasing. To a significant degree, it is also highly identity-based. People who work in computer-assisted jobs, also called knowledge workers by some, tie their self-worth to markers like productivity, responsiveness, and expertise. These are the very things that are currently being threatened, and as such, burnout accelerates. In addition, this form of burnout is also invisible. People can't point to a single cause, like a long, intense project. They just feel depleted. For a species that thrives on being able to see a finish line and work towards it, such unmeasurable effort is draining and demoralizing. It's important to recognize that our minds have limited working memory, and modern work exceeds and overburdens it daily. Every choice, every decision that we have to make drains us of energy. Constant notifications create reward loops, anxiety spikes, and attention fragmentation, all of which lead to what is called a dopamine dysregulation, an imbalance in the way that we process thought and emotions. Although we humans are used to and somewhat capable of riding through stress cycles in our lives, the problem here is that this is not a complete stress cycle. It's an incomplete stress cycle, an unending stress line, which means full resolution cannot be attained. So what can we do about this? Stress and burnout can manifest themselves in many ways, from sluggishness and procrastination through to panic or low-level existential dread, even to symptoms that resemble seasonal allergies. The allergy one is due to the circulation of hormones like cortisol released into the bloodstream, and reactions to acids like adrenaline, which is part of the fight or flight response that I mentioned earlier, which is a key part of responding autonomically and automatically to these stressful situations. There is an opposite state to the fight or flight response, by the way, one that is not talked about quite so much, and it is called rest and digest. This occurs when you are not feeling stressed, and when your body and mind feel it is safe to apply its energies to the more normal elements of life, like digesting the food you have eaten for lunch. This, of course, extracts nutrients and calories in a far healthier way. Digestion is one of the many functions of the body that are put aside during times of fight or flight response. So how do you get to this state of rest and digest? How do we avoid burnout? The best way is to attain a genuine sense of control, to establish control from the get-go. This is something I have talked about for years in my time management sessions, and it's about being proactive and about developing the skill of influence. Anyone can do this. It's not about seniority, and it's certainly not about criticizing those we work for. No matter how much they might deserve that, the reality is if someone has control over your job, that's some significant leverage. But that does not mean that anyone who works for someone, which is pretty much all of us, is not allowed to be proactive and establish control over a situation. In fact, we can, we should, and we must. Let's go back to the back-to-back meetings example. The back-to-back meeting situation happens because no guardrails were in place. Somebody scours your calendar for a time you're available and then pounces on it. Let's say 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock Friday morning. Another person who also wants to have you in their meeting scours your calendar and sees that 10 o'clock Friday is open, so they grab that. There's nothing in your calendar to defend against this attack, so it's fair game. The better route, the more proactive route, the more control-based route, would have been for you to establish a skirt of time around that 9 o'clock meeting, 15 minutes before the meeting and 15 minutes after. The before skirt allows you to get ready, log in or get to the meeting room, whatever, so that you are seated and ready or logged in before the scheduled start time of 9 o'clock. This allows you to arrive at the meeting cool and mentally together. That's what cool time life is really all about. The skirt after the meeting gives you time to enter in whatever action items and follow-ups are required from this meeting, as well as allowing you time to get back to your workplace. Take a breather, and then turn around and prepare to face the next meeting. It's a pit stop. It is pulling off the highway to refuel your car. It is stopping to recharge your phone. It is the equivalent of all these things, mental and physical recharging between every activity. The skirt feature around that 9 o'clock meeting must be visible on your calendar to allow people to see that you're not actually available until 10:15, so they can make their plans accordingly. Your calendar now becomes a tool of negotiation. Everything in life can be negotiated, and this includes when and where you are available. Now, this is just one small example focusing on meetings. But regardless what your source of stress leading to burnout is, there is a strong chance that you can be more proactive, planning and adding controls, just like the time skirt, in advance, to ensure that people can work around it. Giving people awareness of when and how you are available, when and how you will return their messages, not immediately right now, but by the end of the day or by the end of the half day. Whatever is appropriate. You do not need to give people immediate response. Just manage their expectations. You may think this is bad news, but one of the key things to remember is that bad news is better than no news at all. If I find out you're not available until 11 o'clock, or that you cannot respond to my email before 12 o'clock, I can live with that. It's a known factor that I can live with versus the unknown that I cannot live with. You can influence me by just managing my expectations. You regain the control. You feel good. I, too, feel good having knowledge of when I shall attain satisfaction from our communication later. These are the kind of things that help remove burnout from the front and center of your existence. You can bring it down to two key words, basically, proactivity and influence. These go a long way towards reestablishing a genuine sense of control in your life, consequently reducing the potential for at least some of the burnout. Less fight or flight, more rest and digest. Remember, burnout isn't just about losing energy. It's also about losing alignment and a sense of control. Most of us are blessed with enough energy to get through each day, but energy can easily be sapped by negative situations, including that feeling of not being in control. There are, of course, many other sources of potential burnout in our lives, but we as humans generally have an enormous capacity for bearing the loads of hard work and of challenging situations. What truly makes a difference, though, is how you feel about that work and these situations. The more you can exert control and influence over yourself and over others in an appropriate way, through clear communication and explanation, positive, not aggressive, the more you will be able to harvest that sense of control and push burnout out of the picture. Couple of last thoughts. Sensing burnout does not mean that you are weak. It means your energy has been misdirected towards a defensive position rather than being active. And you can't fix burnout with a vacation or even a weekend. Even if you were to spend 2 days or a week completely not checking your work email, the moment you step back into your workplace on the Monday or after your vacation, the stress will reimpose itself upon you and all the therapeutic benefits of your time off will evaporate. Proactivity and influence need to be a permanent part of your workplace persona. And thirdly, and finally, being busy doesn't mean being productive. It's a quality versus quantity thing, a myth that has been foisted upon us. Productivity comes from having a clear, calm mind, not the ability to cram every moment with work. The best thing you can do is to give yourself time to plan. Plan your week. Establish the tasks that are most productive and establish the times when you'll be available. If your job consists of crises and unexpected events, plan for them too. You know they're going to happen. Make time for them now. Manage the expectations of the people you work with and guide them towards the times when you are available. Give them the knowledge that they are currently forcing from you. Feed it to them. There are two other words to keep in mind. Two words that point to success in managing your time and therefore keeping burnout at bay. And these are the words planning and communication. Plan everything, your on times and your off times. And make sure everyone knows them. Communicate. Don't allow their assumptions or expectations to take over your schedule, because once they take over your schedule, your sense of control evaporates, paving the way once again towards burnout. You can do all of this in a positive and cooperative way. That is the art of proactive people management. And unsurprisingly, perhaps, this task becomes easier the more you give yourself time to think it through. Like so many things in life, you have more control over your situation than you have been led to believe. Proactivity, managing expectations, planning, and communication. These are the ingredients to help keep burnout at bay and to give you that fulfilling sense of control and destiny that you so truly deserve. If you have a comment about this podcast or a suggestion for a topic you would like me to discuss in future episodes, please join the conversation on LinkedIn or visit the episodes page at cooltimelife.com, and you will find a comment link at the bottom of the page. If you feel you are getting value from this series, please leave a review and just tell one more person about us or mention us on your own socials. And if you want, you can support us on Patreon. Contributions from our listeners allow me and my team to spend more time researching, preparing, and updating our podcast series, as well as delivering the episodes more frequently. Members get exclusive access to useful bonus materials, and if that feels fair to you, please visit patreon.com/cooltimelife. Until next time, stay safe, stay confident, and thanks for listening.